Greetings and welcome everyone. My name is David Lotherington. I am a psychic surgeon, a channeler, and an oracle. Actually, I oracle for the Federation of Light Corporation. And essentially my job is to channel the gods and share that information with humanity. Now, I've been doing that for about the last 10 years, but before that happened, I was an NPC like many of you and like many humans in the world. Those people that run the stores, those people that are walking around in the streets, they may be your family, they may be just people of the world, and we all have an opportunity to awaken. And for some of you, it takes a lot to wake us up. Some of myself, I would say as well. Sometimes trauma is the catalyst. Sometimes it's excitement towards what you really want to do in your life. There's a lot of things that can actually catalyze an awakening, and today we're going to talk about that. So let's get into it. All right, hey everybody. So like I said, I'm a full-time energy healer. For the last 10 years, I've been doing this full-time. So I think I can help you with this. I'm going to share my story with you today on my awakening process. So in the very beginning, I was 28 years old, and I had lived and stumbled through life. I was a paramedic at the time, and I was transitioning in my journey into getting into pharmacy. Actually, I was with this woman, and she had shown me a video of a planet that was very close to Earth, and for some reason that was very exciting to me. The video after that, however, was about aliens, and when I seen that video, my ears perked up, and I was very excited about that for some unknown reason. I had not been interested in that before. My father kind of grew up with Star Trek, so I kind of watched that with him, as a passenger. But that was pretty much my history. I didn't have any serious catalytic moments, but this was that moment that my soul needed. And after that, once I seen that first alien video, I was hooked. Everything aliens I was interested in. From watching alien movies, I got interested in channeling. Channeling was the most exciting thing because it was aliens and it was humans, so it was way more real. And I shortly after that, I joined the Hukalo group. Hukalo is essentially the human colony group. They're a wonderful group of channelers and human hybrids and wonderful people, let's just say. So definitely check them out if you get a chance. Shout out to Max Rampel and James Charles. So I was with that group for about a year and a half, watching people channel, and I was always told by my guides, one day you'll be like this person. So if you don't know Jim Charles or James Charles, he is an energy healer and he's a channeler, and turns out some years later that's what I became as well. So I was very interested in watching James channel, and I thought that one day I would also become a channeler, but I didn't know how to channel. I didn't know how to begin, and so I learned. Actually, we created this group in the Hukalo group. I asked them, is it okay if we learn how to channel? And they said, sure. So the first group, there was like 8 people there, had a couple friends there. And they said, well, no one here knows how to channel, but Dave, you want to give it a shot? I said, sure. So I gave it a shot and it actually worked. So without any teaching or anything, it just happened. I just let it happen. And after that, I put up my very first YouTube video. I believe I was channeling the Naga or something like that. So that's one side of the story. And let's get into the second one. So as I said before, when I was with this girl, she showed me this video of a planet that was like Earth. Well, she did not want me to have an awakening. She was Chinese, and in China, it's very taboo for people to have awakenings. People in the countryside, they're psychic people, but in the city, they don't do that. That's like taboo. So she got very angry every time I started to look into this field of interest that was insatiable for me. I could not get enough about learning about super soldiers, learning about galactics, and channeling and psychic abilities in general. And I didn't know at the time, but I was having an awakening from that. And every time I tapped in, she'd yell at me, and it created this crazy catalyst for me where I was at work, I remember, and on my breaks at work, I would actually whip out my phone and look up channeling readings of channelings that people have done and just had in an archive. And I was so excited just reading that. It was kind of like cheating, to be honest, but with channeling information. It wasn't sexual at all, of course, but that's how strong the addiction was. The drive was, you might even say. I don't think it was an addiction, but it was pretty close to that, I would say. Now, once we broke up, because I couldn't actually handle her just pushing me away from what I really loved the most, I was kind of lost. It was a dark time for me because we ended up getting married at one point, and I got divorced as well. And yeah, now I'm single, ladies, if you're interested. So, hey, 41 years old and single. But I moved back with my parents, and it was a dark night of the soul for me. I was healing. I had a lot of healing to do. And I knew that there was this one psychic store in town, but I didn't know where it was. So I spent like an hour and a half driving around. This is before Google Maps or whatever. I didn't know what the store was called anyway. So I drove around town. I eventually found this store. And this wonderful woman, her name is Sharon. She let me into the store. The store is called Dragonfly and Dreams. They sell tumbled stones, angel statues, psychic books, pendulums, and a couple other things. And she offers Reiki healing. So I went to the store, and she said, "Hey, darling." She was very welcoming to me. And she said, "What are you here for?" And I said, "Honestly, I don't know. I'm just here. I don't really have that much interest in crystals quite yet, and I just wanted to be at the store and listen to people talk about psychic stuff." And she said, "Well, if you're interested, we have a group once per month, and it's pretty much all women, but you're allowed to join us if you like." And so I said, "Sure." So I waited about 3 weeks for that class to happen, and it eventually happened, and there was essentially, I believe there was 8 women there. There was supposed to be another guy there, but it was just me. And for the most part, it was just girls, middle-aged women, talking about middle-aged women stuff, complaining about husbands and other things. But then one woman said, "So I was driving in my car with my daughter, and I seen in the window this being like calling out to me while I was driving by. So I hit the brakes, pulled over on the road, and I looked in the window, and it was just a ghost." So anyway, I got in my car and went back. And I was like, "That's not normal." And they were asking me, "David, like, we don't understand. Why aren't you, like, intuitive right now?" They said, "Your energy is, like, strong. You have good consciousness levels, but you don't have any like abilities activated right now." And I said, "No." And I said, "All this is a little bit weird. Like this whole grouping, you guys talking about psychic stuff is kind of weird." At the time, I just couldn't comprehend what they were talking about, to be honest. And what eventually happened was, she said, this Reiki master, she put out her hand and she said, "Can you feel this?" And I put my hand above her hand, and I was like, "Yes, it feels warm." And she said, "Well, you can feel energy. So you are connected." And I was like, "Okay, cool." There was this girl in the meeting, and she was looking at me very deeply, and I wasn't concerned, but I was curious. And I had this inner knowing. I just had to stay and talk to this girl after the meeting was done. And this like inner knowing, let's call it claircognizance. Now, after the meeting ended, everyone walked out. I was sitting in the chair, and she was sitting in the chair across from me. And I was last to go to the door, second last. And she said, "Well, I'm going to lock up, but before I lock up, I want to talk to you." She said, "There's something I have to say to you." And I said, "What?" And she said, "As soon as I seen you, I had a flashback of a past life we had together." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is nuts." She said, "I hope you don't think it's weird, but can we hang out?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I was like, "I'd like to learn more about this psychic stuff." And she said, "Okay, I'll train you." So essentially one day per week or 2 days per week, we hung out, in the back of the store in the Reiki healing room, and we just practiced telepathy. And she taught me a lot of stuff, and that was the very beginning of my journey. So I'm sure this story happens differently for every single person. We all awaken differently, but it's very important that you do eventually wake up, because once you wake up, your life really begins to change. I think I'm going to make another video actually on what is an awakening, what is an NPC, and all the important details that you'll need to know about in the beginning when you're having your awakening. What are you going to expect to experience? I think a lot of the people are in the beginning stages, which I call the caterpillar stage. You would have the metamorphic stage after that, and you'll have the butterfly stage after that. And there's several phases after that, but we'll start with in the beginning, and I'll help you work your way through the process so that you have a guide to help you so you can understand what's actually happening to you. Because some people, they feel like they're going nuts. They feel they might be schizophrenic, or they might be losing their minds. They can't talk to people about this because they don't want to be institutionalized. There's a lot of crap that people have to worry about because we're not educated in these things early in life or at any point in life, really. So it's really a tragedy. That's one thing I'm working on in the Federation, is to make psychic abilities mainstream, so it's part of our educational system, essentially. Anyway, that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you're interested in the next one, I'll likely talk about awakening. What is an awakening? We'll talk about the phases of an awakening. We'll talk about what is an NPC and a lot of other things that you'll want to know about. So that's all we have for now. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.